Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Reverse Sweep Show. We are already at the start of February. Time is flying as it always does, and a lot of cricket also happening around the world. AB, how's it going for you?
All good, SS. You talk about time flying. I just realized it's almost 4 months since we started the podcast. And I have, in fact, lost count of how many episodes we have already done. And coming to your question, what's up at my end? What cricket I'm following? A couple of interesting things happening in the cricketing world. India-England series. Really excited to see what this current T20 squad of Indian team does and achieves in the future. Looks like a really strong squad, this one, and some really exciting players coming through. And then I've also been following some bit of Australia versus Sri Lanka Test series. I think Australia is completely bulldozing Sri Lanka there. Yeah, and Uzi Khwaja scoring a double century at his age. Steve Smith scoring a big 100. So Australia are getting that good momentum. What about you, SS? What's happening at your side, and what kind of cricket are you following right now?
Yeah, I think India-England is series which I wanted to follow a bit more, but work has been a bit hectic this week, so I would be looking forward to the ODI series, which we'll talk a bit more later on. Yeah, some games involved some controversies around concussion substitutes. I was just surprised that India lost a game. They are so dominant in T20 format with this young team, and they always talk about the confidence that has been given by this T20 team management. But yeah, they have won a series, and now we go to the ODIs. So looking forward to that. I was expecting actually a tight test match between Sri Lanka and Australia, but Australia were completely bulldozing, as you said, and I still feel that this is a very underrated Australian team. One thing was written in the stars that Steve Smith will be getting 10,000 runs. He was just one shot, and he made it count big through 100, and the bowling then absolutely dismantled the Sri Lankan batting, and Australia will be really high on confidence when go to the second test match. There have been some action in BBL as well. We saw Hobart Hurricanes win their first BBL title, and the guy Mitchell scored such a fantastic 39 ball 100 or something, and people are already saying he should be playing in the IPL. So that was fun to watch. So yeah, a lot of cricket action, and now we are getting into the momentum for Champions Trophy as well. So much to look forward to. And a precursor to that is the India-England series, and that's where we went to decide on the content for this episode. So for our listeners, AB, could you tell a bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are moving from the tests and T20Is now into the ODIs and gearing up for the much awaited, anticipated Champions Trophy. So we wanted to do an episode around ODIs. And looking back at all the episodes that we have done so many hypothetical 11s. But whenever we have done that, we have always looked at picking the best players from the sides that we were looking at. So this time we thought we'll do something different. This time we went and said that, okay, let's pick up the worst 11 that we possibly can. So today's topic is around picking up the worst hypothetical 11 between India and English squads over the years. But with a topic like that, it's very important to have some really strong boundaries and some really strong constraints. Assess what are the constraints that we'll be factoring in.
Yeah, you called it. I mean, if you're not good enough, you wouldn't even play for your national team, or maybe not even for your state teams regularly. So we wanted to put a constraint on certain number of ODIs that would be played. I think both countries have had like close to 280, 300 players in total who have played ODI cricket for them. Remember, ODI cricket only started in 1971, and only after the first World Cup it picked up. So we wanted to set a boundary of 50 ODI matches, which gave us around 60 to 70 players for both countries individually to look at. So a pool of 140 players, 150 players. So yeah, 50 ODI matches. And since there's a pool of 140, 150 players in total, we wanted to not to exclude any generation of players. It's only close to 50, 60 years of ODI cricket. So it's a all-time ODI worst 11 combined for both India and England. And we also wanted to make sure that we are not abusing. So no bowlers in batting positions, no batters in bowling positions. So we wanted to keep the core principle of 11 alive. But that also gets us to a very interesting point that how do we compare generations? That's always in any kind of sport when we compare the best, we always say, okay, conditions were different, equipment were different, techniques were different, intent was different. But here, how do we rationalize the statistics and the intent of players across generation? That will be very interesting.
Absolutely. And plus, we'll also have our own biases, like always. We are not shying away from that, right?
Absolutely. There will be players who will turn up through statistics that they do not seem to be as good as we thought about them. But we will bring it up. We will bring that bias nature. That's always been the core perspective of this podcast as well. So we'll not shy away from it. We will not be number junkies over here. So yeah, looking forward to this. Uh,
Just
AB, yeah.
just a quick thing before we get into the discussion. Just a quick recap on the approach that we'll have. So, like all the other hypothetical 11s, we'll start off from the openers. Then we'll look at numbers 3, 4, 5. Then we go to 6, 7, 8, and then finally the last three players of the team. After that, we'll select our captain, vice captain, 12th man, and the coach. Now, with that said, SS, let's get right into the discussion. Who are your openers and candidates that you were considering for that slot?
Yeah, traditionally we would think 1 to 4 you will have strong players to look out for, and if you're not good enough, you wouldn't even play 50 ODI games for your national team, and these are big national teams, India and England. So I was looking through the statistics. Shout out to Stats Guru and Cricinfo. Helped a lot to make the analysis a bit easier for us. And there were many options that coming in. I was playing with how do I get my opening combination. Finally, I've gone with Chris Srikanth and Michael Vaughan as my two openers. So combination of both India and England. Chris Srikanth, if you ever talk to my parents' generation, they will say, ah, very ultra attacking, like older form of Virender Sehwag and all that, attacking intent and much likable. But yeah, if you look at his record, I'm not that convinced that whether he was that good or not. I think he scored around 4,000 runs, which in isolation looks pretty good, but with an average of 29, with a strike rate that you would think is very high but is not. Considering he played so many games for us, I would have thought that he would have much better record. And Krish Srikanth is one of my opening picks. Quite disappointed to actually pick him, but so be it. And that's the idea of the episode. Second, I had a couple of choices of openers, but I've gone with Michael Vaughan. He played 86 matches for England, scored around 2,000 runs, never scored a century, which is like I was gobsmacked when I looked at that he never scored a century. I think it's the highest in 90s when he was not out. Average of 27 for a guy who played in the 2000s and with a strike rate of 68. That is abysmal, actually, for a top order batsman. And he talks a lot. Somebody needs to tell him that how bad it was his record. He could also give me some spin as well. So yeah, Vaughan and Krish Srikanth are my two openers.
Interesting picks, SS. Chris Srikanth comes as a shocker to me, honestly, because he was such a core part of that 83 World Cup winning squad. And as you said, everyone talks about him being a basher at the top. But then looking at his stats, I mean, I didn't expect that you'd be picking him, but interesting pick, that one. Michael Vaughan, again, like such a successful English captain, won the Ashes, one of the most popular series that was ever played. But then looking at his ODI record, of course, I have to give it to you for picking him in the team. Coming to my openers, my first pick is probably one of England's most successful openers, but in the test format. In ODIs, it was a bit of a lackluster record that he has. I go with Mike Atherton, and the reason is that he played more than 50 ODIs, scored some 1,800 runs at an average of 35, which by itself is not that bad for that era, but then at a strike rate of 58, which is quite terrible for ODI cricket. And so I have to pick him because ultimately it's not just the average, but also the pace at which you score runs. And Atherton was a proper test cricketer. And for ODI cricket, probably he was probably the worst of the openers that we can pick. The second option that I go with is another England batter, and that is Luke Wright. And the reason I go with him is because he played more than 50 ODIs, never scored a century, an average of 20, which has to be really terrible, pathetic for any standards for a batter playing at any position. So these are my two openers: Mike Atherton, Luke Wright. Over to you, SS. Any comments, or what are your number three, four, five picks?
I think fair shout. You will find a mention of Luke Wright again somewhere in this podcast, so watch out for that. Uh, yeah, they were interesting games. I was also looking at Cook as well, but Cook has a average of 36 and a decent strike rate of 75, which reinforced my pick for one. I mean, if Cook, who played after you, had a better, not only better average, I mean, better average could say this is a better batter, but he also had a better strike rate than you as well. I mean, that tells a lot. So fair shot to you as well. We can now come to our number three and four. Number three, I'm looking for someone who actually made pretty good runs against England. I remember he scored a 150 or something in Mohali, and it's Dinesh Mongia, who came out playing in international cricket looking like a decent player. But if you look at his record, he played 57 games. That means Indian management trusted him a lot. He scored 1230 runs, and he usually played at number three position. Best of 159 or something. That was the England innings. Average of around 27, 28. Strike rate of around 71. So that's not good enough. I mean, I understand that you're playing in early 2000s, but still, I would have a bit higher strike rate, around 80 or probably would have been good, and a better strike rate, better average as well, around early 30s. And he played 57 games for us. So I think his early promise did not translate, and he just got a long rope. It's not good enough. So Dinesh Mongia for me at number three. Number four is Nasir Hussain for me, another popular name in the commentary box and well-respected analyst of the game. Again, 30 average and 67 strike rate in 88 games. So just wasn't good enough of an ODI player. And I had shouts with Mike Gatting as well, but I think Mike Gatting has a better record, better strike rate than him, who played 20 years before or 15 years before Nasir Hussain. So number three for me, Dinesh Mongia. Number four for me, Nasir Hussain.
Fair pick says, in fact, number three is a position where we have the same pick. I also go ahead with Dinesh Mongia for much the same reasons as you picked him for. Plus, I also feel he was super inconsistent with the bat. You could never trust him with scoring runs, stitching a partnership, taking the team through. Has to be one of the weakest middle order batters in the combined lists that we have.
And it's strange, right? You had Rahul Dravid at that point of time, and Rahul Dravid could have been playing at three. I mean, there were reasons could be playing lower. We were also experimenting, started to experiment with him as a keeper as well. So you could play seven batter with Yuvraj and Kev. But come on, you cannot have India number three in ODI cricket with that kind of average and playing for 50, 58 games.
But if you really want to look at the bright side, SS, he can give you a few overs with the ball, which the current generation of batters cannot.
Yes.
Yeah,
And he was a lefty. He was a lefty.
absolutely. My number four, I go with someone who played more recently for India. I go with Yusuf Pathan. He scored some 810 runs for the team at an average of 27. If you have to compare across generations, and when we were talking about rationalizing stats across generations, an average of 27 for Yusuf Pathan would mean an average of around 20 for a player batting in the 90s. So that is quite pathetic. That is terrible for any standards. I feel super inconsistent a player. Had a lot of potential, but then did not translate at the international stage. Although he has an impressive strike rate, but if he doesn't stay at the crease for long, then what good is that strike rate? Like maybe compensates a little for Atherton or in your case Michael Vaughan, Nasser Hussain strike rates, but still, I think not consistent enough and did not have enough impactful performances. So I go with Yusuf Pathan at four. Over to you.
The only thing that I will say about Yusuf Pathan, I think he played a lot of games for India batting at six and seven. where he didn't get
Hmm.
possibly a chance to play a long innings. I remember a 123, which is his famous innings against South Africa, where he almost won us the game. I don't remember whether we won or not, but I think if he played a bit higher, maybe his average would have been better, and he would not have been classified as a in the worst 11.
Hmm.
But that's the only defense that I've got for him. I think he did not fill up his potential. Uh, I believe we saw enough of him in Rajasthan Royals in a T20 format. Whenever there's a chance for him to construct an innings, he would. And he also scored a very famous double century in Ranji Trophy, like one of the longest chases in Ranji Trophy. So he could play big innings. I think probably he didn't just get chances up the order.
Fair enough. So, who are your picks for number 5 and down the order?
Number five, just like Nasser Hussain, another India connection, Ravi Bopara at five. Frankly, he could have also opened for me. He was one of the choices to open, but he usually batted at four for England, so I picked him at five. 120 games and average of around 30, so not that bad, but a strike rate of 77 for a guy who was thought to, you know, uh, be the next big superstar from England cricket. Considering the potential he had and the hype he had, he just didn't make good use of it. Uh, it's not the worst pick in my 11, but I thought that between Yusuf Pathan and Ravi Bopara, I thought Ravi Bopara could be a decent pick at number five for me. He also bowled a bit, but he has a very bad bowling record as well. Never used to pick any kind of wickets. He used to bowl some medium pace. But he's had a long county career and he's still going strong, but uh, probably one of the worst in terms of potential to actuality, if you want to compare. So five for me, Bopara. And number six is somebody you have already mentioned, Luke Wright. Have to say one of the terrible records again. And just like Bopara has had a strong domestic record, he still has, I think, very good record in NatWest T20 Blast and actually in Big Bash. But I think the time that he entered into the English team and the flux they were going through in their ODI game in general, just in translate, I think he has obviously because he succeeded a lot in T20, he has a very good strike rate of 85, but an average of 20, played 50 games, made 700 runs. That's awful. So five for me, Bopara, six, Luke Wright. So the two Englishmen. So a lot of English heavy four, five, six for me. Hussain, Bopara, and Wright.
Fair enough. And number 5 for me is another English batter, Indian origin again. So, Vikram Solanki. If we have to talk about his statistics, then 1097 runs at an average of 26.75 and strike rate of 72.93. So we actually see a lot of English batters featuring in this list in both our teams who have an average of around late 20s, early 30s, strike rates of 60s, 70s. So yeah, that's I think one of the reasons why
And
we have
we would have imagined that a lot of picks would come from our 80s and 90s with this mid 20s average. But when we actually look at statistics, it tells a lot about English cricket and English white ball cricket in those time between in the 90s and early 2000s. So many options were coming in from there. So I went with Bopara, you went with Solanki. It's quite dismal.
yeah, and also the Indian connection there is quite surprising, right? You also mentioned
Yeah,
about Nasser Hussain having an Indian connection.
yeah.
Yeah. Then moving on to number 6. Now I have my wicket keeper at number 6 because after that I want to have my 5 bowlers because anyways these are going to be the weak bowlers, so-called weak bowlers. So I want to have 5 proper bowlers in my team. So my wicket keeper is going to be Kiran More. When we talk about Kiran More, he actually takes us back to the dark ages of the batting prowess that the wicket keepers had. Uh, I think he was a decent enough keeper, but looking at his batting average, that was quite terrible. Like hardly any runs that he scored, average of sub 20. You don't want to have him in any contemporary team where you expect a wicketkeeper to be a proper batter. So I go with Kiran More as my wicketkeeper. So that is my number 5 and 6, Vikram Solanki and Kiran More.
Especially if your keeper is batting of that caliber at number six in your team. That says a lot. How you're constructing your team. Even you want your team to be like super, super, super bad. All right, I mean fair shout. Kiran More is a good pick, and I think our listeners will listen a bit more about him because he's actually in my team as well. Spoiler alert. Uh, all right, so now we actually move a bit lower down the order. I am looking at our 7 and 8. 7 for me is Manoj Prabhakar, uh, more famous because of all the fixing allegations and how he played a crucial role over there. But he actually played a lot of cricket for India in test matches and ODIs, and he was like the ultimate floater. He opened a lot for India as well. That tells a lot that he's in the worst 11 of all time is batting at 7 for me. He batted at as low as 8 and 9 as well. So I think maybe management was using him as a pitch hitter. So Prabhakar played 130 games, made around 1800 runs. So he played a lot for India because of his all-round capabilities. He was touted as the next Kapil Dev in general. Scored a century once, average of 24 with a strike rate of 60. I think it may have been a function of where he was batting and everything. He also used to bowl a lot, but doesn't have a good record even for bowling as well. So he's neither here nor there. Classic middle order, lower middle order guy who didn't contribute either good with the bat, but because he was multi-skilled and we were looking for a next Kapil Dev, he played a lot more than he should have. Probably did not fulfill his potential. So 7 for me is Manoj Prabhakar. Number 8 is somebody you already mentioned. For me, he's batting at a position still, I think, a bit high than he should be. Kiran More at number 8 as my keeper. He has an average of 13. That's ridiculously low. 13 average and a strike rate of 69. I think have to give to him. I mean, he's managing his strike rate of 69. That's good. Close shout with Syed Kirmani. I think Kirmani also had an average of 20, strike rate of a bit lower than More of 60. But he was playing like 10, 15 years before and he was much respected. But only played 49 games. So I'm being very strict to the constraint. Otherwise, it would have been a close shot. But I think you cannot beat Kiran More's average of 13, man. You just cannot. Was it Mumbai lobby or no? I don't know. Maybe there were no other keepers during that time. Maybe we could have asked a batter to keep at that point of time in ODI cricket. He was an excellent gloveman, as I say, like the logic used for Riddhiman Saha playing over Rishabh Pant, something similar to that. So 7 for me, Prabhakar, 8, Kiran More. Those are my 7 and 8. Passing it over to you, AB.
I really like your pick of Manoj Prabhakar SS. I think you have taken the entire idea of creating the worst 11 really seriously. You want your performance to be bad on the field and even off the field.
Off the field.
I like that thought, SS, honestly.
He will leak any kind of allegations if this team tries to win a game by fixing. He will figure that out.
Absolutely. Now, moving on to my numbers 7 and 8, I want to have my bowlers coming in. I have two spinners. The first one is Ashley Giles from England. Growing up, I watched him bowl so much, such long spells of bowling to Sachin Tendulkar outside the leg stump, and also getting him out a few times. But all of that was in Test cricket. In ODI cricket, if I look at his statistics, 62 matches, 55 wickets, which in itself is quite bad. And then an average of 37.61, which is terrible. And although he had a decent enough economy, 4.34, but the reason I feel he might be a bad pick for any contemporary team, specifically with two new balls coming up, I think it will be easier to get off of him. So get quick runs against him. Plus, he doesn't seem to be a wicket taker. You need those bowlers in the middle overs who can pick up wickets for you, which I don't think Ashley Giles could do very well. So he is my first spinner and my number 7. Number 8, I had to balance it out and pick a spinner from India. So I go with Venkatpati Raju. Honestly, growing up, I heard his name, but now I don't remember having seen him play. So I remember the name, not the play. Um, and again, not a very good record. And if you have to compare a few spin options that you have, I go with Venkatpati Raju, and for much the same reasons: poor average of over 30. Again, a decent economy, but slow left arm. I think doesn't work in today's time where you want to have quick spin in the team. So for all those reasons, I have Venkatpati Raju as my second spinner. Over to USS, who are your next bit of players?
Yeah, Venkat Pathiraj, I have a soft spot for him. I always found him a decent spinner in Test cricket. He played in the Kolkata Test match, the 2001 Lakshman one. But I think muscles didn't do much in ODI cricket, it seems. I'm sad. I'm a bit sad that Venkat Raju got a mention over here. I have a soft corner for him. But yeah, 9, 10, 11 for me now. The final picks, bowlers. So I'm looking at Chetan Sharma. Why 9 for me? Because he was a medium pacer but also batted. He was actually an all-rounder. So in principle, I'm trying to construct the best team. I have a batting depth till number 9. But in terms of his batting record as well, I think he had a very strong strike rate of 90. So he can hoik it like our Mohammad Shami and Umesh Yadav of the world. Um Also an average of 24. That means he was a handy batter down the order. But from bowling, his primary skill, an average of 35, economy of 5 back in the day. That's too high for back in the day. And a strike rate of 42. That means you're picking wickets every 7 overs in ODI cricket. And if you're going at 5 economy, you are essentially not even bowling 7 overs because your captain those days wouldn't even. So I think back in the 60 over format, maybe he would have bowled that much. But I feel his primary skill is so bad that his batting goodness at number 9 would not compensate for it. Maybe India played him at a higher just because he brought that all-round capability, and that 83 team had a lot of all-rounders. But in isolation of all that, I think Chetan Sharma at number 9. For me, he was a close competition with Madan Lal actually as well. Also had a very poor strike rate and a very poor average, but I think still better than Chetan Sharma. So Chetan Sharma for 9 for all the hat tricks he took for us. The first hat trick in ODI cricket got pummeled for by Javed Miadat on the last ball of that famous match, which basically we should do an episode how that game changed the entire psyche of India Pakistan rivalry. So Sharma at 9 for me. Robert Croft is my spinner at number 10. 50 matches for England, 45 wickets, an average of 40, a strike rate of 50, and an economy rate of 4.5 back in the day. I'm surprised that batsmen didn't go after him a bit more. Maybe he bowled with a bit control, very negative lines and all that. But that's a very abysmal record. And if I had to pick one spinner, I will pick Robert Croft, the Welshman. And my number 11 is my fast bowler Tim Bresnan. Won a series down under the Ashes, played a big role in Test series wins against India as well. But his ODI record, 85 games, 109 wickets. So picked a bit of more wickets, but an average of 35, economy of 5.5. Maybe a testament of the times he was bowling in, and a strike rate of around 40. So I was looking into Harmison, Bresnan, Umesh Yadav, Bhuvneshwar Kumar even was in my reckoning, Praveen Kumar, RP Singh, a lot of bowlers to look into. But I actually settled on Bresnan around this as my number 11. Passing it over to you now.
I really like the mention of Chetan Sharma. The highs and lows of life, right?
Yeah.
You pick the first hat trick for the team in international cricket, ODIs, and then you literally have your career ended by a six of the last ball by the arch rivals.
And you get
Uh,
a mention in the worst team. That's the worst. That's the icing on the cake.
Absolutely. For me, when I look at my pacers, I want to have three pacers in my team. The first one, as you mentioned, I looked at a lot of different players. When we look at Indian pacers, the two pacers that I was considering were Praveen Kumar, RP Singh, even Umesh Yadav. But honestly, I have a bit of a bias towards Umesh Yadav and RP Singh. And even if I compare statistics, then RP Singh and Praveen Kumar have fairly similar statistics. Praveen Kumar played 67 matches, picked up 77 wickets versus 69 for RP Singh. Bowling average of 36 versus 34. So, because of the biases that I have, and also because of the higher average that Praveen Kumar has, I go with Praveen Kumar. Plus, also another contributing factor is the pace that he has, and plus RP Singh also has good swing, which is Praveen Kumar's strength. So I feel all in all, RP Singh would be a better bowler than Praveen Kumar. So I go with Praveen Kumar as my first pacer. So he comes at number 8 for me. Number 10 for me is another pacer, this time from England, and one of those pacers we have never heard of. So when we were actually discussing about creating this team, we had a discussion, right, that if we put a constraint of 50 matches, then we would have at least heard of all those players. But then this one
Correct.
is someone who we never heard of, played back in 86 to 92, played around 50 odd matches for England. Gladstone Small,
Hmm.
someone that I honestly never heard of, and I'm also just going back and looking at his statistics. So 53 matches, 58 wickets, an average of 33.5, economy of 4, which was 4.2, which is pretty bad in the day. So I go with him, and a strike rate which is quite terrible of 48. So
Hmm.
my number 10 is
I think the
Gladstone
strike,
Small.
I think the strike rate tips it for me. I was like, okay, the economy of 4, I can live with it. Maybe it's not the worst. Average, not too bad. We are looking at averages much more than that, but I think that strike rate around 50 is too high.
Absolutely. And my last pacer, again, I go back to the English pacers. And this one is Steve Harmison. Whenever I would see him play, I mean, he is one player who wouldn't strike as much fear, honestly, whenever we would play against him. So, more a bias that I have against him. And he again played 58 matches, 76 wickets. So, it's still a decent enough strike rate of 38, which is not very impressive, but still not as bad as Gladstone
It's an
Smalls.
economy of over 5 in that
Yeah,
era. So
in that
if
era.
you would have
So,
played if you would have played in 2010s when the relaxation was brought in, he would be averaging
over
economy
6.
of 6.5 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is my number 11, Steve Harmison. Over to USS, who are your 12th man and your captain and vice captain.
Yeah, so my 12th man, I was fiddling between Madan Lal because I mentioned that I was looking Madan Lal, Chetan Sharma as my number 9, but also Harmison as well. There are many attractive options, but I actually went with Harmison because Madan Lal could also bat a bit. Uh, and Harmison is something that, yeah, the average is not bad, 32.64, strike rate of 38. So he did pick wickets, but 5.13. Yeah, it was a biased pick for me. Harmison in Test match and Harmison in ODIs were like two different people. So especially in flat wickets as we get around the world in ODI cricket now. Yeah, Harmison for me is a 12th man. My captain, I would go easy pick for me, tactician, captain a lot, England as well, Nasser Hussain for me as my captain. And my vice captain, I also deputized the one who followed him in captaincy, Michael Vaughan, is my vice captain, and we discussed the wicketkeeper as Kiran More.
Now, for me, the 12th man is Robin Singh. I wanted to have an all rounder somewhere, but I think he was a bit better than the other players that I could have in my list in my playing 11. But then, nonetheless, I wanted to have an all rounder. And plus, he was also someone who played more because India just didn't have good all rounders at that time. So that is my number 12. And plus, if a batter gets injured, then he can slot in as a batter. If a bowler gets injured, can slot in as a medium pacer. And then my
And can
captain,
also and can also work as a concussion substitute, just like Harshad Rana.
absolutely. And then my captain is Mike Atherton. I think amongst the 11 that I have, he would be the best suited for captaincy. Vice captain, someone who was still tactically strong out of the other 10 players I have. Again, an Englishman. I go with Ashley Giles as the vice captain.
Fair enough. Do we have a coach of our team as well? I actually went with somebody who you mentioned as your 12th man. I was looking at Ravi Shastri when he has doesn't have a great batting record, just like Shrikant averages around 29, but he has been an excellent coach for us and also was a great bowler back in the day. So I actually went with Robin Singh, neither here nor there. He's like, you know, like a Luke Wright or a Manoj Prabhakar, a bit with an upgrade. That's why he didn't make the first 11, but I thought that he has had coaching stints around the world. He was part of the 2007 T20 World Cup winning team coaching staff as well and won some trophies with Mumbai Indians as well. But I believe that considering all things, I would want somebody with a decent enough coach will be able to help this team navigate while they lose all their games. So Robin Singh is my coach.
Fair enough. For me, the coaching spot, I wanted to go with the coach who has a poor coaching record. And a bit of a hot take on this, a small sample set, but recency bias kicking in, I go with Gautam Gambhir. He lost us a series, an ODI series in Sri Lanka after I don't know how many years. Hasn't had a very good start to his coaching career. I hope he proves me wrong by winning the Champions Trophy, but for now, I go with Gautam Gambhir as the coach because of the poor coaching record that he has had so far. So, SS for everyone. Can you please summarize your team?
All right, the worst of the worst combined India-England team, starting with Chris Srikanth and Michael Vaughan as my openers. Michael Vaughan also functions as a vice captain. Dinesh Mungia at 3, Hussain, the captain at 4, Ravi Bopara 5, Luke Wright at number 6, Manoj Prabhakar as my designated all-rounder at 7, Kiran More, the worst of the keepers, is my keeper at number 8, Chetan Sharma at 9, Croft at 10, Bresson at 11, Harmison as my 12th man, and Robin Singh as my coach.
For me, I have Mike Atherton and Luke Wright opening. Number 3 is Dinesh Mongia. 4 is Yusuf Pathan. 5 is Vikram Solanki, followed by my wicket keeper, Kiran More. And then I have all my bowlers coming in. So Ashley Giles and Venkatpati Raju as the two spinners at 7 and 8, followed by 3 pacers, Praveen Kumar, Gladstone Small, and Steve Harmison at 9, 10, 11. My 12th man, Robin Singh. Captain is Mike Atherton and vice captain is Ashley Giles. Coach is Gautam Gambhir.
Very nice. Now, if we did a FIFA-like simulation and if these two teams played a five-match series, what's your take? Whose team will be losing the series?
I feel it will be a very closely contested series, but I feel it will be 3-2. Your team wins. The reason you have still better batters who can score runs. You have some pedigreed batters in Nasser Hussain and Michael Vaughan. Hopefully, they take your team through.
Yeah, in
What's
a
your
low
take on it?
scoring, yeah, in low scoring matches, maybe Vaughan and Hussain and some impetus from Srikanth, they will be able to chase down small targets. It will be a close series. I think 3-2 we win just because I see your batting lineup. Kiran More at number 6, a guy averaging 13 at number 6, and then you have all bowlers. I think the batting depth
Wins you the
will,
game.
yeah, wins will win the series as well. So yeah, I would say 4-1. We win the series. So you did a better job in extending your tail to that much. So I think fair play to you. So there you have it, guys. This was a very interesting episode, a different kind of hypothetical 11, the worst combined India-England ODI team. So please give a listen to this and share us your feedback. We'll be back with another episode very soon, and you will hear us in the midweek with a new hot take. Thank you all.